Looking for a way to support the channel? Check out the official MTG Goldfish playmats like Fatal Scoops at mtggoldfishmerch.com/YouTube. Use the coupon code YouTube for 5% off. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Wednesday means it's Wild Card Wednesday, and today we got another budget legacy deck to look at, and this one is kind of infamous. It hasn't won any tournaments. This build comes from Compact Disc 9 on Reddit, so congrats on a fun deck, Compact Disc 9, but this is one of those weird kind of zombie hunt style decks, the meme decks floating around under the radar, and it's called Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, or Fluctuator Combo is a more boring name. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, though, I mean, how can you not call it that if you're doing a deck tech on it? And most importantly, it comes in at $158 in the paper world, so about as cheap as it gets for Legacy, and it can win on turn 2. It's a potential turn 2 kill deck. So let's talk Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, but first, a quick reminder, if you enjoyed this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is basically Fluctuator Combo. Fluctuator, the easiest way to think about this is the original version of New Perspectives, except Fluctuator only costs 2 mana. Cycling cost you 2 less to play is all that Fluctuator says, which means if we play things that only cost 2 generic mana to cycle, we get to cycle for free. And the plan of this deck is we resolve Fluctuator, hopefully on turn 2, and we win the game. To make this deck a little more consistent, we also have 3 Enlightened Tutors, which on turn 1 finds Fluctuator, play it on turn 2. The only problem with this deck, like other meme-ish decks in Legacy, is Force of Will does beat us. That is a downside. If we Enlightened Tutor, find Fluctuator, play Fluctuator, we're like, haha, we're gonna beat you on turn 2, and our opponent's like, exile blue card, pay life, Force of Will you. Then all of a sudden, we kind of just lose on turn 2. So there is risk involved. But for the rest of this deck, let's assume we do resolve the Fluctuator and it's on the battlefield. So we get down our Fluctuator, then what are we doing? And the answer here is almost every card in our deck cycles for 2 generic mana. So our mana base is 16 cycling lands. Blasted Landscape, Canyon Slough, Drifting Meadow, Scattered Groves. So all these cards, if we need mana to play our Fluctuator, we can play them. Otherwise, we cycle, churn through our deck, and this is kind of the theme of the deck. Almost our entire deck has the same cycling cost, and one of the cards, the namesake card, I guess you would say, is Bloated Toad. This is where Mr. Toad's Wild Ride comes from. Fluctuator Combo, probably the only deck in the history of Magic, at least in Legacy, that actually can play Bloated Toad with a straight face because it is legitimately a card that we want in the deck. We're not planning on casting it. We're just cycling it away. I guess that's the Wild Ride part of the deck. Along with Bloated Toad, we have a bunch more cycling creatures. Sandbar Merfolk, 2 generic mana cycling. Archfiend of Ifnir, 2 generic mana cycling. Street Wraith, a little bit weird, pay 2 life for cycling, but still, it cycles, that's fine. We also have Twisted Abomination, which is a little different because it has swamp cycling rather than normal cycling. But remember, Canyon Slough is a swamp, so it kind of has cycling with 1 extra step. We cycle it, we get our Canyon Slough, then we cycle our Canyon Slough, so it still cycles in a roundabout way. So the question is, how do we turn all this cycling into a win? And here we have 1 main plan and 1 backup plan. The backup plan is our cycling creatures. So Vile Manifestation and Hollow One both have 2 generic mana cycling, so they work with our combo. We just keep cycling, because the way this combo fizzles is if, as we are cycling, we hit too many non-cycling cards. That's how the deck fizzles, but being Legacy and having all cycling lands really reduces odds of that. But in theory, we can just cycle, hit all of our Hollow Ones, play all of our Hollow Ones, maybe make enough mana to play a Vile Manifestation, which is going to be absolutely massive, like 10 power, 20 power thanks to all the cards in our graveyard and try to beat our opponent down that way. But more often, we're going to cycle these cards, get them in our graveyard, and then we're setting up this kind of strange loop. So as we are cycling, we do have a few non-cycling cards in our deck to support the combo. So we're going through all this cycling through all our whole deck. We're going to hit Lotus Petal, which is important because it allows us to make a mana for free. So we hit our Lotus Petal, we use our Lotus Petal to cast Song of the Dam. This is a card that really powers the deck. Song of the Dam, 1 mana, instant speed, adds a black mana for each creature in our graveyard. All those cycling creatures are going to be in the graveyard. So Song of the Dam in this deck is basically like a Dark Ritual that's going to add 10 mana or 15 mana, some absurd amount of mana. And then, similarly to New Perspectives in Standard, Shadow of the Grave is a card that makes sure we never fizzle, because for 2 mana, using some of that Song of the Dam mana, we get back all of our cycling cards, use them all again. Cycle, 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 cycle. We're going to hit more Songs of the Dams, more Lotus Petals, more Shadow of the Graves, more cycling creatures. We can loop that Shadow of the Grave up to 4 times, so we will literally cycle through our entire deck, which means we find all of our cycling creatures, all of our Lotus Petals, all of our Songs of the Dam. We have like 30 mana, 40 mana, 50 mana floating from Song of the Damned, and then eventually we will hit our 1 copy of Banefire, and using Lotus Petal to make a red mana, and the 40-something mana or whatever from Song of the Damned, we just Banefire our opponent's face, 20 damage, 40 damage, whatever amount we need, game over on turn 2. So that is the plan. In theory, if we resolve Fluctuator on turn 2, the odds of us winning that turn are actually pretty decent. They're relatively high. It's possible we fizzle if we hit all Fluctuators and Enlightened Tutors before Songs of the Damned or whatever, but we have a pretty good shot of being able to just cycle into the combo kill on turn 2 if Fluctuator resolves. Otherwise, in the sideboard, Laboratory Maniac gives us a backup win condition, especially helpful if, let's say, our graveyard gets shut down by a Rest in Peace or something, so we can't loop our Shadow of the Graves. Laboratory Maniac, we hit all of our Lotus Petals, we cast it, we cycle, 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 draw an empty library. Gilded Light, Countervailing Winds are cycling cards with extra utility. So one of the problems with the deck, as we talked about before, is if you hit too many non-cycling cards, the combo fizzles. Well, Gilded Light can like protect our Laboratory Maniac, or a Hollow One. Also works with our cycling plan. Countervailing Winds can be a counter spell, plus it works with our cycling plan. Clear, our Enchantment Destruction, also works with cycling. Rapid Decay, Graveyard Hate works with cycling. Inferno Jet, I can't imagine we are ever going to cast Inferno Jet. 6 mana for 6 damage. It's not going to do anything, but it is a cycling card, so I guess it fits the definition of playable in this deck. And that is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And that's better It's a Deck Tech for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.